Welcome one, welcome all, DeFi Degens. This is crypto, DeFi crypto and airdrop. Sorry, I just got off a Discord live stream. We have a mastermind group, a DeFi mastermind group that we do in the Discover Investment group. And really great group of people, and where we're all learning and sharing our experiences and our knowledge and things that we find. It's great to watch streams like this, and to watch YouTube channels and stuff like that, and learn about DeFi and trading, things like that. But nothing beats being a part of a community, where you can have a round table where everyone's a teacher, everyone's a student, and you can learn from other people. Having mentors and things like that, and mentoring others. It helps you learn and grow in whatever field it's in. So I highly encourage any of you out there, if you haven't. Jay, Ellie, appreciate you, being here. Black Ice, they were all in the Discord. I highly encourage to join the Discord. If one of you can drop the link, in there for people that are watching, it'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, it's just very very powerful. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Just really quick, markets are pretty boring right now. Oddly enough, after a holiday weekend, it's probably the macro news. It's spooking a lot of people. Not a lot going on. Hey, what's up, Richard? Um, but not a whole lot of yield. Of course, Plume is earning, but for the most part, everything else is pretty down. But this episode, what I was wanting to talk about is I want to start to talk about strategies. So as the hopefully we get an alt season, and as that alt season takes out, because I'm all in on alts, I own no Bitcoin. As alt season takes off, I'm going to be laddering out. I've talked about my ladder out strategy in that Discord I talked about for free. We have spreadsheets that you can build out your ladder out strategy so that you have a roadmap or a plan that you can hold yourself to make sure you're taking profits so you don't round trip your bags. But I digress. As I do that, I'm going to end up with a bunch of stable coins because I'm going to be, laddering out into USDC, USDT, PUSD, Plume stablecoin, things like that, that I'm going to use in DeFi to earn. Because once you lock in that value, it doesn't matter if the market dumps. You still have that dollar pegged stablecoin. So you've locked in that value. So if you have $500,000 and it's all in stable coins and the markets dump 80, 90%, you still have $500,000. Well, everyone that's still in those altcoins, or even Bitcoin, if it takes a dump, they are going to lose value. So I'll be all in on stables. So question is, your long-term bags like Bitcoin, things that you just hold no matter what they do because you believe in them long term. Maybe that's ETH, maybe that's Bitcoin, maybe that's XRP, another blue chip, whatever it is. This is for you. That's what I'm doing with this episode. So let's go over here. I just shared this, so I won't get too deep into it, but this is a strategy for Bitcoin if you want to use your long-term HODL bag and still keep full exposure to price appreciation and keep ownership of that Bitcoin. So again, it's still your Bitcoin, in this case, $10,000. Still your Bitcoin. You're still hodling. If Bitcoin goes up in value, you still get full price appreciation. There's no downside to this if you do it properly. Obviously you want to do this on a reputable exchange like, Aave or something like that, to where, they have the TVL, they have the backing to where it's not going to be, an FTX moment or a Celsius moment where the platform goes down and you lose everything. That's about the only risk you deal with this. But as I was saying, you have $10,000 in Bitcoin. I'm just going to run through this real quick. You lend that to earn 5%. That 5% earns you $500 per year. You can use that to do whatever with. You can use that to pay on your car. You can use that to take a vacation, whatever. Now, because you are lending on platforms like Aave, you can borrow against that. It's a leveraged loan. So you're using that as collateral. Again, you need to make sure you do this right so that you don't get liquidated. In this instance, you can take out a 40% loan. Now, I would suggest that you have, this amount or more in stable coins. Again, that's why I mentioned before, I'm going to be all out in stable coins, but I'm going to be buying Bitcoin. I'm going to be DCAing into Bitcoin. So I might want to use that bag to earn like this. I'm going to have a bunch of stable coins earning 15%. So I will have that reserve. So if for whatever reason Bitcoin takes a huge dump and I'm about to get liquidated, I have the capital that I can pay down this loan and not get liquidated. So again, let's continue on. So I take a 40% loan out. $4,000 is what the loan I'll be taking out. With that, you know, for borrowing, let's just say, just so it's a good even number, that the loan cost me 5% APR. So basically it cancels out what I would be earning on this 5%. So basically, and it's pretty close. Even right now, if you look on Aave, a lot of the lending, you'll make about 3%, and it might be 5% to borrow. So, and again, you're just paying it on the 4,000. So there's some math there. We won't get into it. But that 4,000, you can now take that and you've made that Bitcoin, that value, 4,000 of that value liquid without affecting how much Bitcoin you hold, because you still, say Bitcoin is $10,000 per Bitcoin. You still own one Bitcoin. Just because you took a loan out against it doesn't mean you have less Bitcoin. You still have that full Bitcoin. Now, you take out $4,000. You can use that to open liquidity pools. You can use it for anything you want, but I wouldn't go spend it. I would use it to earn personally. So you do a $2,000 liquidity pool, say an Arrow USDC, because that's making about 40 to 50% APR pretty consistently, full range pool. You're making $800 a year off that $2,000. Now you open a $1,000 one. Say you're making 60% on that. Say it's a wrapped ETH USDC. You're making $600 a year off that. Same with this one. You're making 50% on that. You're making $500. So together, after costs and stuff like that, you're making $2,320. Now, with that yield you're earning, you can use that to pay down that loan. Now, in this case, over 5 months, you can pay down this loan to where the loan to value ratio goes down to 30%. Now, with that, at that 30% level, you can then take out another 10% loan, so another $1,000, and open up a new liquidity pool to where it can earn. Now you have $5,000 worth of liquidity. And say that's 40%, another 40% off that $1,000. So you're making another $400 a year off of that you add to it. So now you're making 2,720. So you're making 2,720 now. So now you're paying this down faster, that 10% faster than 5 months. Maybe it's 4.5 months or 4 months that you're paying it down. So every 4 months, now you're opening another liquidity pool. And then maybe it's every 3 months you're opening another liquidity pool. So the whole time the market is dumping, and the whole bear market, the years and years of a bear market, potentially just off of your Bitcoin, HODL bag, you can be stacking and building a whole DeFi portfolio without ever affecting your Bitcoin bag. I mean, I hope you see the potential here. Instead of just hodling that Bitcoin, being like, I got my Bitcoin, my precious, you can be using that without ever, worrying about losing that Bitcoin to build a whole DeFi portfolio through the bear market. So this is just one of many strategies that we're going to cover, here on the here on the channel, as we move forward. We've been trying to be more towards the beginner DeFi, introducing people to DeFi up until now, but I want to start getting into some more advanced strategies because we're starting to build a very strong community, in our Discord and here in the chat, and I want to make sure that we are always bringing value. So if you're new, if you just found us, you just found the channel, please follow us on YouTube. There's the DeFi Academy that I'm building out, and there's episodes. We're up to episode 11. This is going to be episode 11, but the prior episodes are the basic principles of DeFi. What is DeFi? What is yield? What is a DEX? What is a hot and cold wallet? How do you use hot and cold wallets? Soon you're not going to need them. With what Coinbase is doing, you're not going to need wallets to get into DeFi. But let's go through the chat real quick. See if there's any questions. Yes, Jay, that Discord meetup is every Tuesday. It's going to be noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time next week. Definitely down on my Flare DeFi. I went from 4 to 7 daily. Lucky to get to $3 after the 4th of July. Not quite sure. Definitely down. Oh, definitely down on your Flare DeFi. Yeah, a Flare, I'm not doing any DeFi on other than I have mine on Uphold, and I'm earning about 3.3% a month, about 30, roughly like 36%, I think it is a year. Um, I'm holding on to it in the hopes that some of the stuff that Ripple is doing with the XRP ledger, because those that don't know, Flare is a DeFi play on the XRPL, and it brought smart contracts and some other functionality to the XRPL, and allows a lot of DeFi to happen on XRPL. So I got it in a free airdrop, and I've been kind of using it for that. So anyway, let's see what else do we got. Let me know if you have any questions about this, flywheel, this lend borrow flywheel that I covered, because this episode isn't going to be very long. I don't want to draw it out unnecessarily. I just really wanted to share that strategy. I can close out this tab. DeFi Llama, VFAT. While you guys get those questions in there, I will share. Let's share this. So about the only thing that's performing for me right now is, as always, Plume. So over the past couple of days, off $2,000, I made over $100. I'd say this is probably 4 days, 5 days worth of earning. So I made 5%. So yeah, I'm making about 1% a day. Still making about 1% a day on average on Plume. And this is my range position. Nice wide range, 8 cents, roughly 8 cents to 15 cents. Oh shit, I fucking closed it. I'll bring up Dex Screener and show you. Let's see. Let's actually go back to here. Copy that. All right. So those of you that aren't familiar with this process, Um, so I went to Uniswap here, and you can click on this copy button. In this case, Plume USDC. You can come over here to Dex Screener, click on search, paste that address, and it will bring it up. So it's on Ethereum mainnet. You got Uniswap, Plume USDC. Click on it. Let's see, and you can see. There we go. So you can see we were just showing this in the Discord, but you can see that I put in these lines. So basically what these are is lines of support and resistance. So this is how I pick my ranges when I do ranges, because you can see that it goes up, it bounces, comes down, it bounces, goes up, it bounces, down, it bounces, down, it bounces, up, it bounced, came back down, came back up. But you can see these are ranges. And in DeFi, in ranged pools, you are earning as long as you're in range. In full range pools, you're always earning. And I highly suggest if you're new to DeFi that that's the route you go. But as you advance, like in this one, I picked 8 cents to 15 cents. And the reason being is that you can see the kind of the lowest that we've gone down here is about 8 cents. And up here, we were in the 15-cent range for a long time. That's kind of the high that we were at for quite some time. So I picked that range because I didn't feel it was going to go out of range anytime soon. And even though it's a super wide range, that is a huge range for a ranged pool, I'm still earning, like I said, 1% a day. Might not seem like a lot, but that's 30% in a 30-day month. That's 30% a month. So that means that roughly every 3.5 months, if I just, continue to make that, I mean, it can fluctuate. I mean, I've seen Plume where it's, 1,000, 2,000% APR, but just how it's consistently been earning, that's what I'm making. So every 3.5 months at this, low level, I am doubling my position in Plume. So you can see how it is that I churned $800, that I initially invested in Plume into almost $5,000 over the past months, is because I keep on earning and I keep on compounding my earnings back in to those positions. So I'm not just stacking that yield in a hodl bag. I'm putting that back to work to where it's stacking that yield on top of yield. So I might have started with $800, but now I have a $2,000 position that is earning instead of just an $800 position. All right, so let's wrap this up because again, I don't want to talk everybody's ear off unnecessarily. Hey, what up, David? So, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Is I was just wanting to cover, how you can leverage your long-term holdings, your long-term hodl bags of, Bitcoin and ETH and things like that that you're stacking to hold long term that you don't plan on selling at and laddering out of this bull run. Like I said, me myself, I'm going to be laddering out into stables. I'm going to be putting those into positions where I'm going to be earning 10 to 15% APR on stables. And with that yield, because if I just 10x my portfolio with what I have right now, I'll have $500 to $600,000. With that $500 to $600,000, we'll say 500,000. I like nice round numbers. Say I just earned 10% on that. That's $50,000 a year that I can use to do whatever with. Pay bills, improve my property, buy Bitcoin, whatever, without even touching the principal. So I can buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin and other alts in the bear market. And with that, I can put it to work doing what we went over. Again, it's I started out with 4,000, opened 3 pools. After 5 months, I opened another $1,000 pool because I can take out another $1,000 because I paid this down to 30. And then, because I'm earning more, this time period, this 5 month time period goes down to maybe 4.5 months, 4 months, 3.5 months, 3 months. And each time I'm taking out another $1,000 and I'm taking out another $1,000. And I'm just opening up these different pools. Maybe after a while, I go full degen and I find one where I'm making 8,000% APR on some meme coin because I want to boost my earnings. And I just totally degen on this pool. And you can see that it gets to a point to where you don't even have to take out a loan on this anymore. The yield that you're simply earning off of your DeFi portfolio, and that's where I'm at. I haven't put any of my own money into DeFi for about 6 months now. I have been doing nothing but collecting the yield off of my liquidity pools and using that to open new positions and plus up my positions. So you can see why they call this farming, because you plant one seed and it bears fruit or bears yield that you can use to plant more. Planting being opening up new liquidity positions. So anyway, again, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and bring this to a close. Just wanted to cover this real quick. All right, Rich. No worries, man. We're closing this up. So I appreciate all of you. And I appreciate the couple hundred of you that are out there watching live. I know the markets are boring right now. But DeFi makes it a lot easier. These sideways and down markets. Those of us, Ellie, Jay, a lot of these people that are, Wispy, that are in the chat, they've been with me since the beginning, and they've been earning a lot and stacking their bags. While the markets have been dumping, while the markets have been going sideways, they are stacking their bags with free money, with other people's money that are paying fees to swap and things like that and borrow. You need to break out of the mindset of just buy and hodl. There are other options to where you can still hodl and still get full price appreciation, like in this case I just shared, and stack your bags for free without using any of your own money. Trading, it is a great way to earn, but it is complex. And there is a lot of people out there that are better at it and know how to trade. I sucked at it. I was other people's liquidity. It's like a meme coin. If you're not profiting, you're somebody else's liquidity. I was somebody else's liquidity in trading. I found DeFi. DeFi makes sense to me. I provide liquidity, I make money. So with that, I appreciate y'all. Until next time, Veteran Crypto out.